Welcome to Rick and Bubba University, the podcast. I be Rick.
And I be Bubba.
Your professors at Rick and Bubba University, handing out degrees in common sense. Bubba, we neglected to talk about this week on the big show during the week. Maybe we should do it tomorrow. Do you realize that last week on Rick and Bubba University, the podcast, you and I celebrated our 200th podcast.
Wow, 200. And if you think about those, one a week, 56 weeks, 52 weeks in a year,
yeah,
that's a lot of years.
So it is. It
already.
Is. Well, and you know what? The reason why I didn't think anything about it, Adler told us it was our 200th. And then I was listening to another podcast the other day, and they were making some big deal out of their 200th podcast. And I thought, well, Bubba and I did that. And, and I thought maybe we should have. I didn't realize that was such a milestone in podcast world.
Maybe we should have had cake.
We should have. Where was the cake?
Maybe for 202, Speedy will get us a cake.
Okay, so we'll see. So this is Rick and Bubba University 201. So and today it's an ongoing series we call Letters from the Audience, and this is fun. You guys send us emails. And then Bubba and I just sit here without, all this weighing on us on the show and everything staying on time. And, we'll drop in a commercial here or there. But we got a lot of time to kind of expand on these letters. And, Bubba, right out of the gate, one of the things, you and I make fun of the fact that we've never received an award and probably never will.
Right.
Okay.
I think it's safe to say we will end this, and there will be no awards given from. No. We only had one, and it was a marketing award. So.
We will be smeared from the landscape of radio as if we were never here.
Yeah, we're going to be like a Soviet leader that got a bad cold 6 weeks into the job.
We will be like the family members that you only see at these things where there's no way to get away from them, and they'll be the industry will have that sense of they'll breathe out and go, thank God they're gone.
Yes.
It's so anyway, let's jump in. But something we did get a little pat on the back one time for is our marketing. And Patrick asked this question. He said, I've been meaning to get to this question, and I never have, but I figure I need to before time runs out. How did you choose the red and yellow, and I notice sometimes blue, colors for the Rick and Bubba logo? Now, I'm trying to see. This is different logo. That's the university logo.
Right. I guess you're talking about
but
the
over
show
here, see this one right here?
Yeah, all these.
Notice that, and you can see we do these colors red, yellow, and black boldness on the outside of the logo, and that is not something that was random. Bubba, I remember us talking about this. If you get into visual marketing and graphic arts, you will find that these colors are always sought after. They're good colors.
Well, yeah, I think we looked at some other logos, and we looked at the ones that really stood out and really popped, and you see this time and time again. So I feel like that was probably why we lean that way in this stuff.
Yeah, if you pay attention, Patrick, and those of you that may be intrigued by Patrick's question, pay attention. When you're looking at billboards, when you're looking, well, there's something on TV right there, and you're looking at people throwing out logos or they're throwing out a special to you. I don't know if anybody even reads the newspaper anymore, but if you see these, if it's in color, you'll find that the colors red, yellow, and black show up a lot.
Right.
And they're sought after because apparently marketing people have done research that they're pleasing to the eye and they draw you in. Now, the blue is just Bubba and I getting bored with always having red, yellow and black, and we kind of one day looked up and saw there's a curtain in here. You can't see it on this shot. There's a curtain in here, and we laid the logo on a blue curtain, and we just kind of did this. Ooh.
Oh, yeah, it just popped.
Ooh,
came right off.
We liked it.
Yep.
So that blue is actually a late ad. We started doing that almost to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, and it does. It really pops. I've been well pleased with the logo over the years. We've had versions of it, but it's stayed the general concept. Mm-hmm. And Rick, when we get these letters, Speedy pulls them down, and he leaves them in my box. But I don't look at these a lot before we go on the air because I like to just kind of shoot from the hip on it.
Yeah.
Here is one about best of moments. This comes from Daniel James.
Hey, Daniel.
He says, are there any recordings of the Friday Night Football show that you could play as a best of show? We're talking about Pigskin Roundup. And there may be somewhere, they're probably on videotapes if they are. We tried to save some of that the best we could over the years. Some of them have degraded, obviously. There was not the opportunity to transfer those. It just takes so much time to do that. And there's services that do some of that now. We'll probably look into some of that down the road, but we just haven't had time to really do it. But I don't know of any. Do you?
I don't, and it is one of those things that has been so sought after. Now, I will tell you, there's starting to be listeners that are putting together YouTube channels of recordings they made.
Right, and that's impressive.
That is impressive. The quality not awesome, but you can really see some moments. It's been fun for me to go watch them.
Yeah.
From Turner South days.
Because I forget them. I really do. I forget them, and I go, oh, yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah, I don't know that a lot of you thinking about it, Bubba was very innovative on trying to find ways to do long-form recordings. It really didn't exist. It was difficult to do.
Yeah.
And then even when you try to put them on cassettes, the various speeds of the cassette players, and sometimes they record at one speed, then play back at another, and it was really difficult. So I'm sorry. I mean, now more than ever, I wish that we had recorded every pigskin roundup, and you can go back and listen to them. But our mindset at the time, you never thought much about we need to save these moments,
right?
And there wasn't a real the technology didn't really exist to save them.
I'm sure there's a clip or two. I feel pretty sure that I had the video camera at one.
Yeah.
That may have a few clips on it, but we've got to go back and review that. And the problem is with our schedule, there's just not a lot of time to sit down and review videotape. And this is a two-part. Daniel James says, I know the pita eaters, being very careful saying that.
Yeah, thank you, buddy.
Segment was controversial, and it almost ended the show before it began.
Yes, it did.
But wasn't there another moment where Speedy said something even worse? What exactly went down there? Well, we've all had our moments on the show. I've had several. I tried to ask the band. What was the band, Rick? Hayseed Dixie.
Hayseed Dixie.
They said their home was a place.
Mm-hmm. You gonna try? Are you gonna try it again?
Called Deer Lick Hollow.
There you go.
And I was trying to ask them how things were going in Deer Lick Hollow.
Yes, you did.
And I did not say deer correctly.
You did not.
And that was a fun moment. Speedy's, I think the one that Speedy's had several down that line too.
I know the one he's talking about.
I know one, he thought he had a tick problem, but it came out another problem. But there's one, the one I'm thinking of, Rick, was a remote at a jewelry store. It may have been the worst.
That's
one.
what Daniel's asking. I'll tell you why, because he's tying pita eaters early show.
Yeah.
He said also he means early in the show.
Right.
Speedy did something that was even worse than that. Now, that was not during the live show. It was the same situation Bubba and I were in. He was doing an on-location remote.
Right. And I will say this. I heard it live.
I did too, on I-20.
Because I was driving. I was away. It was an afternoon remote. Speedy was doing it. And I heard it, and then I turned the radio up because I thought, what did I just hear? Mm-hmm. And then Speedy trying to save it.
Oh, my.
And him trying to get through it and kind of laughing and trying to suppress the laughter. And then the laughing in the background, it was absolutely hilarious. And frankly, there is no way I can tell you what he said. There's just no way I can do it. It was a bad slip.
If George Carlin were alive, he would walk in the room and say, y'all can't say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. But the word is so bad and so offensive.
Yeah.
There's no way to do it. But it was a jewelry store. It was on location. And should I even try to tell him the word that he was trying to say?
Well, he was, let me say this.
Okay.
He was supposed to be discussing princess cuts of diamonds.
There you go.
Okay.
And we'll just leave it there.
And yes, we'll have to be very careful there.
And he got princess right, but unfortunately.
Right. Thanks, Daryl.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel. And also, I like his.
Say Daniel.
Yeah, I like.
I'm so nervous.
No, I'm shook. But I like his little PS too here. And I agree. I was thinking about this the other day. He says the last CD this year has to be "Run Me a Z" and shut her down.
I think any of that would be good.
Run Me a Z and shut her down. So that one.
Anybody that's closed up knows what "Run Me a Z" means.
Yeah. Bubba, I think this one will lead to an interesting conversation. Of course, I don't know why I'm assuming that, but here is from Daryl. I'm trying to figure out how I found the R&B show, Rick and Bubba Show. Were you guys on satellite radio about 12 to 15 years ago? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, we were on there twice, best I remember.
They moved us around a little bit.
Yeah, we were on one channel, and they decided that we didn't fit on that channel. Mm-hmm. Of course, we don't fit anywhere.
There are no channels for us.
What we do is...
We have no channel.
There's very few people that do what we do the way we do it. There's probably a reason for that.
Right.
Anyway, we were on one channel. They took us off, and then years later they brought us back, and I think it was on the Patriot channel. But we really didn't fit that either because I think they were just wanting, hard hitting conspiracy, alt right, and we do preppers and all that. But what we do really doesn't fit that. There's certainly a vein of that, but it wasn't full time. And we've been taken off a couple of news talk stations because we were not news enough,
political enough. Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to, I think, a theme you've seen in a lot of these questions. We've never been a just this show or that show. It's all over the road. We vary. It's comedy, it's spiritual, it's sports, it's what's going on in our lives, and it's. I think we both agree from time to time the political gets a little much. But it varies, when you have
Some days you're into it,
when you have election seasons going on, you have that, or a lot of news that's tied to that. Yeah. I think we all wish we could do with a little less of it. That's for sure. Yeah,
I think satellite radio is the only time that Bubba and I can say, and we wouldn't say this. Has it affect us in terrestrial radio a little bit? Yeah, from time to time, like Bubba said, and it's also, but satellite radio. Our variety, it cost us. They didn't like it. They said, you got to figure out what you are because we don't know what station or frequency or what is it called?
Genre
to put you on. And they wanted us to pick a genre, and we wouldn't, so they took us off.
Yeah, that's kind of the bottom line.
And one time they said, you're not spiritual enough for our Christian stations.
Yeah, we're really not.
Yeah, but you're too spiritual for our comedy stations. And then how about y'all try politics? And we took a pass on that, too. We'll come back. We'll finish letters from the audience when Rick and Bubba University, the podcast, continues.
This is the Rick and Bubba Show. Watch more at blazetv.com/Rick and Bubba.
Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba.
All right, Bubba, we're back. Installment 4 of letters from the audience, and we're continuing to try to answer your letters.
Rick, this is a very good question and a very insightful question. This comes from Madison Hand. This is former intern Skeeter here.
Is it really?
Bubba sometimes call me Emma Stone, but my real name is Madison Hand. Madison, I remember you very well. Bubba has alluded to a story about his kids a few times over the years, but has been forbid to tell it until he had permission from them, or until they got older and wouldn't be quite as embarrassed.
I remember this.
When he finally told it on the air, just reading between the lines here, it had something to do with the birds and the bees. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, I'm dying to know the story before December. Please spill the beans and give us a good laugh because this story sounds like a goodie. Skeeter, I still don't know if I can do that at this point. That may be more of a podcast for next year, for sure.
Can I tell you, it is absolutely
we'll see how it goes.
Side-splitting funny. And I wish...
We'll have to do it a day Greg's not here.
Oh.
That's obvious, right?
Yes.
It may be, it's not dirty, but it's adult and marriage oriented.
Yeah,
can I say that?
It is. Yeah,
and it's something that all families have to deal with at some point.
Right.
Or you might be like many families I've known, just never deal with it.
Right.
And let them learn all of this from somebody at school.
Yeah.
But Madison, that's come up several times. That may be more of a live presentation than it would be a broadcast one.
Yeah. Look for the upcoming stand-up theater tour. And Bubba says, tonight I've got a stool and I'm telling it all.
Yeah. We're gonna have to pay the bills somehow next year, so we'll see. You may come to a stool near you. Thank you, Madison. Good to hear from you.
Yes, oh yeah.
And come by and see us before it's all over.
And
love to see you.
I was going to go another way, but since that was an intern, let's go to this intern question from Pamela. The intern program seems to have not recovered after COVID. Can you explain why? To me, it hasn't been that we don't want to do it. It's like once that happened, what you got to be careful of is when something becomes normal and it starts being the normal way things are done, sometimes things don't come back. because people start going, well, we got so accustomed to that. And we're not having a tremendous amount of college students wanting to intern. I don't know if intern programs in general have become a problem. Yeah,
I think that's part of it too, because I had even inquired and looked into a little bit of that. We used to have, everything pre-COVID was kind of set in its ways.
Yep.
And then after COVID, everything changed. So, and then also in that, we changed studios where we don't have as much room as we used to.
Yeah.
But a lot of the intern programs kind of changed too, and a lot of the people running those programs started operating remotely, and I don't know if they've all got back in or not now. And it's just the whole system broke down, really, from the school side and our side. Yeah. And with the show ending and smaller quarters here, it just didn't look like it was worthy of us trying to build all the bridges we needed to get that up and going again.
Yeah, and another thing,
I miss having the interns and the stories they brought in.
Oh yeah, one of the things too that I think has been part of that too is we Bubba, what he said was right about the new room in here. We don't have as many golden ticket seats, and we just can't have as many people. So when you start saying we're going to limit the amount of interns you could have here, and I think 2 would be the max.
Yeah.
But what happens is it's kind of like. When you hear me joking about men's ministry, all men's ministry want speakers at the exact times of year, and then when you have them available, nobody wants them because they're not doing events. It's like the interns all want to come in the exact same season because that works for their school program. Well, we need interns to come all 4 seasons, and we'd like to spread them out.
Right.
And that option just doesn't get presented a lot. Like you hardly ever have any that can come during the fall. They mostly all want to do the summer, and then you get to where we can accommodate the ones when they want to come, and then when we need them, nobody's applying. But and it may be a lot like I told Bubba at COVID, having a son that is an actor. They started doing auditions on Zoom because everybody was terrified of the virus. It was a lot of it probably was not necessary. But now that that's not a problem, guess what? They're still making them audition on Zoom because they started liking it better.
Right.
And not the actors so much, but the people who are casting, because they don't have to bring everybody to a building, put everybody in a waiting room,
right.
Set up this. They just have you send in or do it on Zoom, and you can stay where you are, and they can be where they are, and they don't have to pay to bring you in. You don't have to do the expenses to get there. Now, there's some people that think that that's hurting actors, but then others who say, I think it's actually helping. But the bottom line is something was done during COVID that everybody just kept, and I think that's hurt the intern programs.
Yeah, it has.
So, Bubba, we now we got time. Do another one.
I got a 2-parter here. You want to do this one? It's kind of a bizarre 2-parter.
Okay.
It's much like the show. It's not in one genre.
Yeah.
This comes from Dawson, and Dawson, I'm sorry, that last name I have no hope of getting
don't
right.
Worry about that. Let it ride.
It says, hey, Biggins, I've been listening to your show consistently for around a year. Really enjoyed. I will definitely miss you guys next year. Had 2 questions. 1, how did Bubba acquire all the titles that are said when he makes his entrance on the show, like the Silver Tongue one?
Mm-hmm.
Dawson, we basically assign those to ourselves. Yeah. And between us, we just kind of came up with that. Nothing official, no paperwork there. That's just simply we stuck something on ourselves.
Yeah, it seems like that you and I were sitting down when you were being a character on the show, and we were trying to come up with your intro. And it seems like I remember we just started listing these things. And
it just kind of came together.
Yeah, right. And a lot of it tied to what was going on at that time with Bubba and everything. And, like when he owned a station, they wouldn't let him talk, so that's where Silver Tongue One came from.
Absolutely.
I don't know if y'all know this. We tend to talk a lot about food. Professional lunch eaters, man of the year.
Well, we did. We kept up with facts to try to get to lunch, have a good lunch quicker than everybody else. Nobody wanted to be in the crowd, so we had a routine we went through.
Yeah, Bubba one time would give advice on if you want to get a certain type of pizza at a buffet, this is when you should be there, this is when it comes out.
Right.
So that became the Shakespeare, obviously that's from Good Old Boy Theater.
Right.
And it's all tongue-in-cheek.
Yes.
And the pizza.
Much like this whole presentation.
And the pizza in a cup was Bubba always trying to develop ways to eat and drive.
Well, I did because I stayed on the road a lot, and I had to learn how to eat. And there were some foods you could eat on the road, some you couldn't. We've talked about that. Pizza will slide out of a cup. A taco will not.
Yep.
Just
there you go.
Critical point there. And Rick, much like this show, completely changing gears on part 2 here, What would you say the main difference is between supplying aid to Ukraine versus Israel? I would share similar beliefs with you about Israel as it pertains to Scripture, and I support giving them aid, but I'm not sure I totally understand the difference in logic between helping them and Ukraine. Thank you, Dawson. Dawson, it's an interesting thing. I think with Israel, it's pretty straightforward.
It is.
As believers, as Christians, I read in the Bible that those that support Israel will be blessed; those who don't will be cursed. I really don't think it goes any
That one's real
further
simple
than
to
that.
me. I mean, when we think about standing with Israel and supporting Israel, I'm with Bubba. It takes me about 15 seconds to go. I mean, because of everything, really, Dawson, you pointed out for one thing.
Yeah, I think that's an easy one. Ukraine is more complicated. And I think you see opinions on this varying and, kind of growing as things go on. When it first started, we all were in support of Ukraine. We wanted them to be able to stand up against the Russians rolling in and rolling the tanks over them, much like the Russians did after World War II with Poland and a lot of other places. But as it has drug on, and as they continually to require billions of dollars to prop up this effort, I think us wisely are beginning to ask the question, what is the end game here? Are we just going to have an endless supply of money going to Ukraine and it's going to be a standoff? How do you bring this thing to a conclusion? And I think a lot of people who were very supportive of the Ukraine in the beginning still are supportive, but they don't think we ought to be footing the bill for it. They think Europe ought to be footing the bill for it. And look, I've got friends on both sides of this argument. I've got some that think we ought to totally cut them off. I think some that says, no, we've got to fund them. If we don't, we're going to be sending our kids to defend Europe when they go after the next state, which could be a NATO ally, which we're bound by treaty to defend. So it is complicated, and honestly, I kind of bounce around on the issue. Every day that goes on, I'm a little more like, hey, we got to get a closure on this because we can't fund it forever. But I certainly understand why we've done what we've done to this point.
Yeah, I'm nutshell it. I trust Israel. They've been a great ally. They haven't burned us. I have a biblical mandate as a follower of Christ and a worshiper of the one and only living God, Jehovah. And so Bubba cleared that up. So that's easy. Ukraine is complicated, as Bubba laid out. I don't trust Zelensky like I would trust Israel. I don't trust the politics that go on there. I'm a little queasy about that. And the fact that all the left ran to them and started putting their flags all over their social media made me question it.
We heard yesterday, Rick, even from Senator Tommy Tuberville.
Mm-hmm. That was important.
He said and implied yesterday, and I've heard this before, that maybe U.S. policy is somewhat to blame for this. Now, I'm not going to go that far. He did.
Yeah, he did say that. Yeah.
But I think that when you saw the expansion of NATO toward their border, it probably certainly made them nervous. It would do the same thing for us. Mm-hmm. If the Warsaw Pact was still in play and Canada wanted to join it, we would be against that 100%, or Mexico. So there is something to be said for giving somebody some breathing room. I got that. Mm-hmm. But again, at the same token, you can't take a country that is independent, that is free, and tell them you can't ask to be in our club. Right. Now we might not let you in, but it's their right to ask.
Right.
So again, it's a complicated issue. I know people who have been against funding them anymore, who have been in on briefings that come back and go, we need to fund them. And then I know people who've been wanting to fund them going, we just can't make this an open-ended proposition. So I think it's an evolving thing.
We'll come back. Rick and Bubba University, the podcast Letters from the Audience edition, right after this. Patriot Mobile, not only part of Rick and Bubba University, the podcast now, but now full-blown, locking arms with the weekly show as well, the daily. And there's a good reason for that, because a lot of us, when it comes to our wireless money, we don't like throwing it at companies that represent, stand, confirm, celebrate things that we don't agree with. And then they don't stand for the things we wish they would. So you're like, well, I don't have any choice. Yes, you do. Now with Patriot Mobile, you don't. Now, Rick, are you trying to guilt us into this? No. No, I'm not, because the merit is there. They have the ability to access all three major networks, which means you get the same coverage you've been accustomed to without funding things you don't agree with. And with Patriot Mobile, you get a 100% U.S.-based customer service team, making switching easy. They have great and even developing international plans that are going to get even better. You can keep your number. You can keep your phone. You can upgrade if you want to. They make switching easy, and because you're part of Rick and Bubba University, the podcast, you're going to get free activation when you use the offer code Rick Bubba. Just put our names together, Rick Bubba. Also, if you call 972-PATRIOT, make your phone money matter. Switch to Patriot Mobile today. Rick and Bubba University, the podcast. We are back. Letters from the Audience Edition, episode number 4. And only our letters from the audience would feature a person wanting to know how Bubba got all of his introduction nicknames right into Ukraine versus Israel.
I'm going to tell you, that email really sums up how this show operates.
It really does.
Doesn't it?
Bubba, don't get nervous because I'm going to bring up a name here that's going to bring some emotion. So this is from Brad. I noticed you wouldn't even reach for this letter, so I had to. What year did you guys go from being terrified that the Hammer was going to pull the plug to we are our own company calling all the shots, your first big contract, and what year do you consider to be hitting the big time? So this actually, believe it or not, Hammer was for us going independent. Now, we found ourselves in a bit of a blessing. A situation where things became a little volatile on exactly which company we belong to. I'm not going to get some trouble.
Well, I think it was one company, but we were not sure which boss we reported to.
Correct.
Would that be a more accurate?
It is. And so at this point, the Hammer was not happy that he might be getting moved out and not be our guy that we answered to anymore. And so the Hammer talked that we should protect our brand. We were for that. Bubba was handling this too and made the point that we would save the company payroll taxes, and for them it could be beneficial as well. We were absolutely zero threat to become anything, so no one cared. They didn't feel threatened by that at all. Don't picture it like it was 10 years ago, and we declared we got to go independent. Yeah, and everybody's like clamoring to go, we don't want to lose control. It wasn't like that. I think everybody laughed, if they were honest, that we wanted to incorporate and own the show and be independent contractors who then the broadcast company buy the rights to our show. I really think probably, if they were honest, they were laughing at the notion and went, hey, we'll save on payroll taxes. Let these idiots do it. Right. Well, am I exaggerating? I don't think anybody was threatened by it.
Well, and it wasn't just that, because the payroll taxes get paid either way. It's either by the employer or the employee.
Well, that's right.
In a contractor situation. But it really had to do with all the other things we were doing too, and we were doing a lot of things outside the radio station, and it really was a diverse thing that we had going on. So that just made sense to do that, and that way we could keep up with our own expenses, and the traveling we were doing and all that figured into taxes too. So it just was kind of the right thing to do considering the situation we were in.
No way the Hammer would have agreed to that if he still had control. And he often talks about the first big contract we got and how if he'd been in charge, he could have saved the company money because basically no one could handle us the way he could. And listen, and there's a lot of truth to that.
The Hammer was he was absolutely gold on promotions.
Absolutely.
He was
guerrilla marketer. We learned so much from him on that.
Yes, he was the cat daddy of guerrilla marketing, and
he was the Kirby Smart.
We enjoyed our time with the Hammer a lot. We had maybe a few bad moments there once or twice, but I always enjoyed the Hammer. He was a little hard to predict sometimes to know what was going to go on, but it was a memorable experience.
Let me tell you, the Hammer is. He's that coach you had that you played for that at times you were terrified of him. At times he made you upset, but he got the best out of you, and he drove you like cattle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To get every ounce of what your potential was. And for that, we will always be thankful.
We would
just
not
like you are with any coach that was hard on you.
Yeah, we would not have been here today without the Hammer.
No way.
And proper respects to Mark. He was He was a go-getter, a mover, and a shaker, no doubt about it.
First big contract.
People have asked me before when I thought we made it. And I don't know that I ever, had that, because we were just having fun.
Yeah.
And the show was growing, and, everything grows with that.
Yeah.
But I guess if there was a moment where I went, wow, how about that? Would be when we first went to a Birmingham station. We referred to the story the other day.
98.
WYSF in Birmingham, because it was a big change for us, where we had been doing the show, where we were going to be doing the show, the way we were doing it. The money was better because of being a bigger market, and we used to keep the Mark and Brian picture in the studio, and we would chant "Come money, come." Yeah. And I remember after we signed that deal, and it was in the media and all that stuff, my answering machine, which by the way was a tape one back at the time.
Me too, same thing. Yeah.
I had so many calls of people just laughing and hanging up on the phone because they were trying to do the "Come money, come" chant, and they couldn't even get it out. They were laughing so hard.
Mine was a little different. Everybody I owed money was calling. And they wanted it, and they wanted it now, and they didn't want me to say I didn't have it anymore. But I do remember that morning waking up. I do. We didn't work that day because for obvious reasons.
Right.
We were waking up, and our phone machine was completely full,
blowing up. Yep.
And so that was the first big contract was 99, 98, somewhere in there.
About that.
Yeah, and so that was it on the contract. As far as me saying big time, like beyond that we have become a big show in Birmingham, we're now a big show, period, was Turner South. The Turner South years, when we got put on a straight-up cable channel that people could see in a lot of places and a lot of big markets in Atlanta, and people started coming into the loop that just didn't have radio stations. There was no way. Our network was growing. And so it was kind of a step. We got a big contract. We're proving we can compete in Birmingham. Then that Turner South deal, which came from us showing we could compete in Birmingham, and then we got put on TV where people could watch in their homes just by flipping on their cable. That to me felt, and then the first time that we walked into the Fat Fest amphitheater, and thousands of people came, not hundreds, thousands. Came from multiple markets to watch a concert day, a day of acts that we put together completely. We didn't have anybody other than people tied to the show, and people came because they liked the show. Those, to me, that little run right there is like you go, okay, this has gone to another level.
Yeah, and there was a couple of moments I thought, this is pretty cool when we went to the Jenny Jones show.
Yeah.
And we were there, and she had some of these top morning shows from around the country, MJ and BJ from Tampa that was real big then.
Yeah.
And for us to be sitting on the stage with them, I thought, well, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Here we are, two good ones. What are we doing up here?
Sure.
And I'll tell you another day that I really enjoyed it. I just, it was kind of surreal. When we went, and it goes back to the Turner South thing, we went to Turner Broadcasting in Atlanta to do promos.
Yep.
And I had been by their place there many, many times because I was a Ted Turner fan, and saw the old White Columns building, you know, where they started, Channel 17 and all that.
Right.
Well, they'd grown it, and, it was a big, humongous thing then. And when we got to walk in that door, and they were waiting on us, and they treated us, like we were royalty, and we went back to this huge studio, and we got all these camera people and makeup artists, and they're doing all the, and I thought, man, this is big time. And we met Jeff Hall, who was doing remotes. He did all of Turner's. He was the engineer for all of Turner's programs outside the studio.
Right.
So he did basketball, baseball, Braves, all that stuff. And then when he was assigned to do our shows on the road, I thought, well, it don't get any bigger than this.
Yeah, and that led to, I remember the first time I'm watching the Braves on TBS, and all of a sudden behind home plate, our faces pop up.
Yeah.
promoting Watch the Rick and Bubba Show on Turner South.
I know. I couldn't believe it.
I couldn't believe it.
I was like calling people, hey, you see that?
I couldn't believe it. And I think you hit on some things you look for when you know it's going to another level. Had we done TV commercials before? Yeah. Had we done promos before? Yeah. But we never got there and were told to report to makeup. We'd never sat in the chair and there's a whole staff there. There's a whole craft services table. And you're like, okay, things are changing. This is a different thing. And so that's when we realized that the show had elevated, to another step. So
those are just some surreal moments because I drove by Turner's place 50 times, growing up and just going, wow, that's where Ted Turner works and what all they're doing.
And then we went from we're doing the show from a parking lot throwing turkeys, to we're doing the show from Disney World.
With the Braves.
We're going to be calling a few innings tonight on the Braves telecast. I don't know if you know this, Pete Van Warren has passed.
Yes, but you know what? One of my favorite nights ever because we grew up watching those guys.
We were doing innings with them. Okay, we're sitting where everybody sits. That people say we'll sit right here. Of course, it's closer than you think it is, and it's kind of dangerous. But so that when all that stuff was going on, you're like, okay, doing a live show from Big Lots. And doing a live show from Disney World for spring training for the Braves.
No offense to
Big
Lots.
Yeah, no, nothing at all. I'm going to do a remote today at a car lot, or I've got to get to Atlanta because I'm calling the Braves game tonight.
Yeah, it was a different level.
That's a different thing.
And I'll tell you another one tied into that. We got to go to spring training, as you said, at Disney World. Mm-hmm. And to get to go out, we have John Shearholtz there that was, the GM. We have Bobby Cox. We have Rockin' Leo Mazzoni on the show. Again, guys, we watch
what are we doing with
every
these people?
night.
Yeah, what are we doing with these people?
And when they let me go out and throw on the mound and brought one of the Braves catchers out.
Sure.
And I'm out there throwing to him. It was just fun to get on the mound and throw. Well, guess what? Here come the Braves out to practice.
Yeah.
And I'm throwing to this guy, and I was like, do I need to get off the mound? He says, no, just keep throwing. They'll take you infield. It'll be fine. And I look up, and Terry Pendleton, who played for the Braves and was coaching then, is standing behind me. Yeah. And Glenn Hubbard, that played second base, was standing behind me, and they're watching me throw pitches to the plate.
What are we doing here?
And I had thrown a couple of knuckleballs to the catcher, and he was laughing about it. And he says, hey, Terry, watch this. And he said, throw him a knuckleball. And it just so happened, Rick, the weather, the humidity, the wind was perfect for knuckleballs that day. It was slightly blowing in my face.
Yeah.
And I threw a couple of knuckleballs, and they were some of the best I'd ever thrown. And they went nuts. They were laughing about it. And they're like, hey, you want to put the screen up and throw back? I said, no, I do not. I've seen how these guys hit. I am not qualified for that, okay? So, but anyway, that was a surreal moment for me to see and meet Terry Pendleton and Glenn Hubbard. And I'm on the mound throwing while I get to meet them.
We'll come back. Crazy. We'll finish that when Rick and Bubba University, the podcast, continues right after this. Some of you are listening right now on Everyday Earbuds from Raycon. Testing 1, 2, Rick and Bubba University, test. And if you're listening some other way and you wish you had the Everyday Earbuds, I have good news for you. We've got a great option. Go to buyraycon.com/RickBubbaPod. buyraycon.com/RickBubbaPod. Get 20% off your Raycon order plus free shipping. That's right. You get 20% off and free shipping at buyraycon.com/RickBubbaPod. Now, you're going to love the sound profiles that you can customize it. You can have noise isolation. These are great Mother's Day gifts, by the way. Noise isolation. You can have the awareness mode. You go to, I'm listening to content of like the Rick and Bubba, or I'm listening to music. I can go back to that. So find out how to get yours. Those customizable gel tips. They make sure it fit in your ear. They don't come out if you're even being active and exercising. So get yours now. You'll love these. About half the price of the other premium audio brands, and now you can get an additional 20% off at buyraycon.com/RickBubbaPod. Rick and Bubba University, Bubba, we're almost done. We can get another letter.
Okay, here's a quick one. Jordan Hilliard wanted to know what happened to Chance. Where did he go?
Yeah.
You said things got weird. Now, Chance was with another cable network that we started with. I believe, were they Heartland to start with?
I think Heartland.
But did they change the name somewhere along the way?
They did. Don't remember what it was.
It was the old Nashville network.
Yeah.
And they had that. So we had a guy that worked there who was running the show named Chance. Mm-hmm. And we discovered that Chance was very funny in the way he delivered things. And then, honestly, between all of us, and I don't know to this day if he was a real person or he was somebody doing a character. And we had that discussion, I know, among ourselves, and we really didn't know. But as he got more popular and more people wanted to hear him on the show, he was more reluctant to come on.
I know, the stranger it got.
And it kind of got weird there at some point, because at one time he had called in wanting to date one of our interns, remember?
Yeah.
And he, he had some dating holdups, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we were kind of working through that. But honestly, I don't know. Do you know? I don't know.
No, we're not trying to avoid this question, and I've been pondering it ever since your letter came in.
We're curious too.
Yeah, we have no idea what happened to Chance. All we know is he cut off communication with us, and it never has been reestablished. Right?
Yeah, that's correct. He didn't come on the show a few times, and then they said he wasn't there anymore. And I don't know if he was real and left, or he was a guy doing a character who didn't want to do it anymore because he was getting too much attention, or what. I really don't know.
Bubba, you see if you know what this guy's talking about, Jeff. He says, "I would like to know." Some of the hand signals y'all use during the show. I know you're busy. Would you let me know you got the email? We did, Jeff, out of Tennessee. What does he mean? Like if I'm doing I look at Adler and I do this. If I'm doing numbers to Adler, I'm telling him what video choice we're about to make, because the videos are all listed by numbers. So that's one.
Well, I don't think we have a.
Now, Greg has some that are pretty obvious.
Yeah, we don't have an assigned set of signals like a baseball team would.
Right.
But I think sometimes we try to get each other's attention. One of the things I've done over the years is I'll bang on the desk a little bit, because you can't hear it, but you can feel it. And if I'm trying to get Greg's attention or your attention, I'll try to tap on the desk a little bit.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's numbers going to Adler
on what video
we're asking Speedy if a guest is on the line that we're expecting to be on the line.
Oh, here's one Jeff might be talking about too. If Speedy's ever over here, and we're in the middle of talking to a guest, and you see me come over and give him a 1 or a 2,
right?
Is this guest on for just one segment and they have to go? I'm giving him the 1, and he'll nod, meaning there's no chance for them to be on longer.
Right.
And then if and I'm doing 1 or 2, he'll give me 2 or 5, or he'll look and go, whatever you want.
Now, during the podcast, many times Rick will signal to me if we need to go to break. Because I don't. In the old studio, I had a clock, and I could keep up, but I don't have one here. So Rick's the clock keeper, and he will tell me we need to break, or wrap it up, or we're down to 2 minutes, or whatever.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll see Helmsy running with a piece of copy, and he's pointing, doing this, or where he's letting me know I need to now look into the YouTube feed and do a commercial, and Adler and I have to adjust and do that. So what is that one? This one right here?
We do L for live read.
Live read, that's
read.
it. Yeah, that means live read right there. Or Greg uses it for loser, which we made him stop doing.
Right. And sometimes I do this one going, I'm ready to go to lunch.
Right, that's that one right there.
Yeah.
And then if I do this or this or this, I just have nervous twitches. Some of mine are just nervous twitches.
Yeah, we have that too.
I have to keep the
a lot
rhythm.
of tapping.
I got to keep the rhythm of the show and the rhythm of life.
You can hear Rick tapping his foot sometimes because you tap it on the ground.
I do.
I just shake mine on the chair.
Right.
It's kind of like the motor running, the engine, and it's really a way we keep time.
It is.
Because we can, in 30 seconds, kind of based on your rhythm where you're at.
Yeah, and speaking of that, if you see me do this, that means I see the hard brakes coming. We got 30 seconds, and we do this one. I do that again.
Yeah.
Because see, Bubba doesn't have a clock, so
right now, I don't know how long we have left, or is it time to do a commercial break?
No, we're done. 1 minute.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 minute.
1 minute.
Yeah, 1 minute.
So you want one more quick one?
Yeah,
quick
if it's a quick one.
Have any of the wives finally learned what I can't say
Oompa
Loompa means?
You know what? I don't think so, except that time that Sherry picked up on it, because for some reason, I don't know why, I told her. I mean, I didn't want her to say something.
I don't know what you were thinking.
I and she's the only one that seems to know, but she might have forgotten. I said, "Hey, Sherry, Oompa Loompa." And she goes, "What are you hollering at? You think I'm short?"
Well,
and I said, "Well, you are tiny. I'm not calling you an Oompa Loompa. I don't want you to say that." And she goes, "What? What?" And then you could see her wheels turning. Wait a minute. I've heard you shout this to the kids when they were telling
that's
me.
the thing. My kids know what it means.
Right.
I don't think Betty does.
And, yeah, so Sherry heard it, but then I created a diversion, and I don't think she ever locked it in.
Yeah.
That's my hope.
That's important.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thank you for your letters. You helped us put together, I hope, what was an entertaining and informative podcast
Keep
for
those
you.
coming. We need to do this again.
I love letters from the audience.
It's
So
good. Y'all have some really good questions.
thank you for being with us on this edition of Rick and Bubba University, the podcast.